Welcome back, everybody. I'm Joshua Orro, the Mustang Prince. And welcome to Mustang Prince Orro Reports. Now, last time, we took a look at Disney's The Hunchback of Notre Dame. And as I said before, it's one of the greatest films that come from the Disney Renaissance. It was dark, epic, mature, thought-provoking. And it had a great soundtrack, thanks to the musical geniuses Alan Menken and Stephen Schwartz, as well as lovable and memorable characters. But then, when the 2000s came along, I discovered that Walt Disney Television Animation decided to make a sequel. And mostly everyone told me that it sucks. But what are my thoughts on it? Well, that's what we're going to find out today. Released a DVD on March 19th, 2002, the movie is The Hunchback of Notre Dame 2. Now let's get started. The movie is set in 1488, 6 years after the events of the first movie. Now that Frollo is gone, Quasimodo rings the bells with the help of his new friend and Esmeralda and Phoebus' little son, Zephyr. But when Quasi stops by a traveling circus owned by an evil magician named Sarouche, he falls for a girl named Madeline, who happens to be Sarouche's assistant. However, Sarouche plans to force Madeline to help him steal the cathedral's most famous bell, La Fidèle. So, what do I think of this movie? Well, let me just make this perfectly clear. I know tons of people have been saying that this movie is the worst Disney sequel in history, but I think otherwise. Because I enjoy this movie. I mean, yes, it's not better than the original, but it's way better than these two pieces of garbage. Plus, I believe there's more to this movie than what everyone else says. But for now, let's move on to Mustang notes. Now, I can't find much trivia about this movie, but what are my thoughts on the animation? Well, I gotta say the animation is okay. I mean, it isn't perfect compared to the first movie. In fact, it's almost to the same level as some of the animated shows that you may have seen on the Disney Channel, like The Little Mermaid, Aladdin, or the Hercules shows. No surprise, since this was animated by Walt Disney Television Animation. But what I find interesting is that part of the animation was done in Japan. Now let's move on to the story. Now, to me, the story is a little cliched, but it is pretty romantic and sweet. I also like that there's a festival of love in this film. It is Paris, after all. There are also some things I should talk about. For example, the circus that's owned by Sarouche that's featured in this film looks more like a carnival, with magic, jugglers, and fire breathers. And the bell, known as La Fidèle, is very beautiful, due to the fact that it has gold and gems inside it. Also, my favorite scene in this film is when Quasi gives Madeline a tour around Paris. Now here's where we come to the songs. In total, there are 5 songs in this film, but for now, I'd like to talk about 3 of them. The first song is Les Jours d'Amour, sung by Clopin and the rest of the townspeople, where everyone is getting ready for the festivals. To me, I find it to be a very zany, and I think it's the kind of song you listen to when Valentine's Day rolls by. Then we come to I'd Stick With You, sung by Quasimodo and Zephyr. This song shows how strong the bond between them is. I just can't help but smile every time I listen to this song. I also like that during the song, Madeline starts to warm up and see how sweet Quasi is. The final song I'd like to talk about is Fa La La Fallen in Love, sung by Hugo, Victor, and Laverne, After they are witnessing Quasimodo and Madeline developing mutual, strong, and true romantic feelings and affections for one another. They seem sad at first, but then they turn it into a perky tune with a bit of 1950s rock and roll rhythm. And yeah, I know what you're thinking. Rock and roll in 15th century Paris is stupid, but to me, I actually don't mind. Plus, this isn't the first time an animated film would have that kind of music during that time era. Remember The Swan Princess 2? Anyway, later in the song, the townspeople join in and dance in the square in the rain. Anyway, now that we're done with animation, story, and songs, let's move on to the characters and their voice actors. Our main character, Quasimodo, is once again voiced by Tom Hulce. In this film, Quasi is similar yet different from the first film. He's free to go outside Notre Dame whenever he wants, and he's accepted by all the people of Paris. But he's still the same bell ringer with a heart of gold. However, with the Festival of Love going on in this film, Quasi feels unsure if anyone would want to love him. Also, in my opinion, Quasi's new song, An Ordinary Miracle, which is sung after he meets Madeline, is very sweet. Next we have the lovely Esmeralda, voiced once again by Demi Moore. In this movie, Esmeralda is married to Phoebus and has a son named Zephyr. However, her role in this film is much smaller than her part in the first movie. Whenever Quasimodo had problems in the movie, he usually turns to Esmeralda for advice. Captain Phoebus is voiced again by Kevin Kline. He continues to serve as captain of the guards. When Sarouche and his circus troupe arrive in Paris, people begin reporting thefts to Phoebus. Eventually, Phoebus discovers the connection between the thefts and Sarouche, and realizes that he and his gang are just a bunch of thieves dressed as circus performers. But unfortunately, this revelation causes a little brief rift between himself, Quasimodo, and his wife and son. Clopin the Gypsy Leader is voiced again by Paul Kendall. His role may be small compared to the first film, but mostly what he does in this film is act as host for the Festival of Love. Next we come to Quasimodo's gargoyle friends. Victor, voiced by Charles Kimbrough, and Hugo, voiced by Jason Alexander. Sadly, Mary Wickes didn't reprise her role as Laverne, due to her death in 1995. So instead, she was replaced by Jane Withers. And in my opinion, Jane does a great job voicing Laverne. Anyway, the gargoyles haven't changed a bit. Victor is still the same British voice of reason. Hugo is still the obnoxious flamboyant who flirts with Jolly. And Laverne is still the wise grandmother figure. Now let's talk about the new characters in the movie, starting with Quasimodo's love interest, Madeline. Voiced by the lovely Jennifer Love Hewitt. Best known from I Know What You Did Last Summer. But some folks might know her from Tom Thumb and Thumbelina, including Garfield the Movie and the 2004 Christmas Carol film. She was also in a certain stinker known as Delgo. Anyway, I really like Madeline. Not only is she pretty, but I also like that she's trying to be a tightrope walker. I also think that she and Quasi make a sweet couple. What's more, Jennifer Love Hewitt contributed a song called I'm Gonna Love You, which is played during the end credits. And in my opinion, it is one heck of a beautiful romantic song to listen to. Next up, we have Esmeralda and Phoebus' son, Zephyr, voiced by Sora himself, Haley Joel Osment, who's also voiced in Beauty and the Beast and Enchanted Christmas, The Jungle Book 2, and of course, The Country Bears. Now, in my opinion, Zephyr is my favorite character in this film. He's such a lovable little boy, and I like when he performs with his mother. Plus, he's really smart and sneaky, like during the scene where he and Jolly follow Sarouche into the cathedral and watch him steal off Adele. Also, even as a little boy, Haley Joel Osment is a great singer. Finally, we come to the new villain, Sarouche, voiced by Michael McKean. Now, to be honest, I'm not a big fan of McKean's acting, due to the fact that he's been in such major stinkers like the 2007 Joshua movie and the 2006 Year Without a Santa Claus. He was also a lame villain in Casper: A Spirited Beginning. As for his role in this film, well, even though his magic tricks are cool and he's a very slippery thief, Sarouche is a very unlikable villain. He seems to be in love with himself due to all the mirrors in his trailer, and I don't like the way he treats Madeline throughout this film, due to the fact that she stole from him when she was 6. Plus, his plan to steal off Adele is very predictable. Now let's move on to my final words. Overall, The Hunchback of Notre Dame 2, in my opinion, is an okay sequel. Sure, the animation isn't perfect, and the villain Sarouche is very unlikable, but the story is very sweet and romantic. The characters are wonderful, including Madeline and Zephyr. The voice acting is great too, as well as some of the songs. So, if you'd be interested in checking this movie out, then go ahead, even if tons of you might hate it. But if you have kids, I'm sure they'll enjoy it much more than you. I give this film a rating of 70% out of 100. Well, that's it for today, everybody. Be sure to join me again for my next blog. Mustang Power. Oh, and for my French audiences out there, adieu.